My intuition is telling me there'll be better days.
What's up, bad bitches of the world? Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. My name is Natalie and this is my channel, Music to Makeup. So today's video, I had no plans on filming a video today. It's actually Valentine's Day today. Came home and I was just starting to feel a little lonely, and this is like my third or fourth year single Valentine's Day, and I was just like throwing a little pity party for myself. And then I started to think of some of the Valentines I had when I was with someone, and these are not memories that I would wish on my worst enemy. And those Valentine's days are not anything I would wish on my worst enemy. They were not someone expressing their love for me. It was narcissistic abuse. And so a lot of the things that I'm going to be talking about are from a book I am currently reading, and it is called Power: Surviving and Thinking After Narcissistic Abuse by Shahida Arabi. So I'm specifically going to be talking about the 3 phases of narcissistic abuse. And I know this is such a romantic topic for Valentine's Day, right? But I think it is important, especially if you have been in a relationship with a malignant narcissist and experienced the abuse firsthand. Because I guess back when I didn't realize that not everyone possesses empathy, and that there are people out there, specifically the narcissist, who intentionally tries to do harm. I guess my point I'm trying to make is it is better to be single and by yourself and have your self-esteem and self-respect intact than to be with a malignant narcissist. And a lot of the Valentine's days I was with someone, it was a relationship like that. So I just want to talk about the 3 phases, because once I understood the phases, I was able to kind of grasp that it wasn't about me. It wasn't that I was flawed or there was something wrong with me. There's something inherently wrong with them, and their behavior follows these phases to a T. While just knowing about them isn't going to protect you from all of them, because their tactics can just be so covert, trying to, I guess, heal from the narcissistic abuse. It helps knowing that this is a pattern that they do with everyone, and it wasn't about you or anything that is inherently wrong with you. So the 3 phases, real quick, are the idealization phase, the devaluation phase, and then the discard phase. So if you would like to know about the 3 phases of narcissistic abuse, then keep on watching. And if you do like this video, please let me know by giving it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel before you leave. All right, well, let's get into this very romantic topic. Okay, so narcissists tend to subject romantic partners to 3 phases during a relationship, known as idealization, devaluation, and discard. So the idealization phase most often happens in the very beginning of a relationship. And this is when the narcissist is essentially going to love bomb you, is the term that a lot of books use, and I think is a very appropriate term. It's where they are going to put you on a pedestal and flatter you and compliment you and make you feel like you are, the most amazing and interesting person in the world, and that they are genuinely interested in you. Want your constant attention, and they'll be texting you all day, and it's just an overwhelming sense of like admiration and adoration. And that increases our dopamine levels, and we think that we've met someone we're amazingly compatible with, and this could possibly be my soulmate. I think because I am an empath and I am just a very emotionally deep person, that when these narcissists were love bombing me, I was like, finally someone who's on the same emotional depth as I am, and who can, once an intense romantic relationship and an intense, passionate love. But the narcissist doesn't have any empathy. The narcissist is doing this not because they are genuinely interested in you, but they are interested in getting you to depend on them and their attention and their affection and their love. So this is what they are trying to do during the idolization phase. They're idolizing you, and they can be showing you off to friends, family members, making, showing off all your great qualities and making you feel like someone is, recognizing you for, you and acknowledging your successes. And it's a great feeling. And this is where the foundation is laid, because most normal people don't set out to intentionally harm someone else. They don't build someone up just so they can break them down. The next phase is the devaluation phase. And this is where you are basically thrust off that pedestal. The narcissist will suddenly, blow hot and cold. They will criticize you covertly or overtly. And sometimes they'll, play it off like, oh, I was just joking. Or one of the narcissists that I was dating, a lot of them often do have substance abuse problems, especially alcoholism. We rationalize it because we think we've met our soulmate. During the idolization phase, when you're feeling loved, you open up to this person and you tell them about your fears, your insecurities, your successes. You open up about yourself. And you're doing this to establish a genuine connection with them. But what they're doing is they're taking all this information to use it against you later. One of the narcissists that I dated knew how smart I was, and that was something that I was very proud of and that I'm very confident in, is my intellectual ability. And he would get drunk and often make comments questioning my intelligence, calling me flat out stupid. And I would get so upset, and then the next day he'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. I never said that, which is gaslighting, basically trying to make you doubt yourself and doubt what you heard or saw. And you think, so because they were so great in the beginning and now things changed, they start criticizing you, they'll start comparing you to others, especially their exes. They will either call their exes crazy or kind of put them on a pedestal in front of you to make you jealous. They will just withdraw, give you the silent treatment for no reason. The same narcissist would just completely stop talking to me basically every weekend. And we would get in an argument, I guess, right before, basically where he would say that I was over emotional and overreacting to something, then just give me the silent treatment as a punishment. And then the week would come and he would apologize or say, I'm so sorry, I won't do that again, and then the cycle would repeat. But because you think that they were that good person and that loving person that they showed you in the beginning, and that maybe they're just having a bad day, or you rationalize this bad behavior, but it's really the person that they were in the beginning is the false self. The person they're showing you now is their true self. When you don't cater to a narcissistic's sense of entitlement and you threaten their sense of superiority, or their false belief that they have the right to treat people like objects, they are often going to go into a narcissistic rage. Narcissists can't comprehend anyone being independent of them with boundaries, values, and beliefs that don't align with the narcissists. When the victim starts to question the abusive behavior, they will stonewall them, gaslight them, and invalidate them further until they feel guilty for reacting in the first place. The first time a narcissist throws you off the pedestal is actually the best moment to leave, and it is usually the moment most survivors wish they had left, had they known what they were dealing with. So there's a lot of different ways they can try to throw you off the pedestal during this idolization phase, and there may be a very negative outburst followed by a lot of gaslighting and blame shifting. Narcissists are notorious for not accepting responsibility or blame for anything. They can, insult you or call you names and then say it's a joke, or say, oh, you're too sensitive, which I heard a lot. And because I am so empathetic, and because I always wanted to be less sensitive. I always wanted to be less empathetic because I would just always get taken advantage of. So when I was younger, when someone would say to me, "You're too sensitive," I would believe them. I would believe that I was the one that was reacting inappropriately. Remember, narcissists don't truly admire anyone. If they do praise you on your strengths and accomplishments in the beginning, more often than not, they are planning ways to set you up to fail and sabotage you in those same areas. They suffer from pathological envy, which means that anything you're better at than them will eventually be a subject of denigration rather than praise during the devaluation phase. In the devaluation phase, all bets are off. The true abuser starts unmasking himself or herself. And the reason most survivors end up going back after the first incident is because of the makeup period. The narcissist will convince you that there was a reasonable explanation behind it, or it was really your fault and they just became abusive when they're drinking, or they just had a bad day. And because you're the compassionate and empathetic partner, you're going to be prone to agree. So then this is where they turn you into basically an addict, and they start giving you breadcrumbs or intermittent reinforcement. And this is a technique in which the narcissist gives you inconsistent spurts of the love you once saw at the beginning. And what this does is it convinces you that maybe you are the one that is at fault and that you can control the narcissist's reaction. This intermittent schedule of rewards is the same way many gamblers get hooked on slot machines. Although they know a reward is random, unpredictable, and rare, they will still continue to play in hopes of getting a reward because an unpredictable schedule of rewards is more effective in accessing pleasure and excitement than a predictable one. So during this time, the narcissist gets away with giving you less while getting more of your time, energy, and effort. That's why the narcissist sneaks in tender moments of love, kindness, generosity, and great sex periodically throughout the abuse cycle, so that each and every time an abusive incident happens, you feel as if you can win the lottery again. If only you could be perfect and everything the narcissist demands you to be. You are misled into thinking that if you just learn not to be so needy or clingy, the narcissist will reward you with the loving behavior he or she demonstrated in the beginning. You have to understand that the man or woman in the beginning of the relationship never truly existed. When a nigga pull up on me, tell the nigga back. Don't you know all these niggas wish that they could back. I'm just waiting for you, waiting, you gon' let it wind down. You got 24 seconds and it's starting right now. Shot clock. You gon' miss your opportunity. So even though the narcissist is gonna be quite possessive and jealous because he views you as an object and a source for his narcissistic supply, the narcissist is prone to projecting behavior onto you. He or she will make you seem like the needy one when you're just reacting to them withdrawing or ignoring you, even though he or she was the one that established frequent contact in the beginning. And now that you're, acting in the same way, he's projecting feelings of neediness onto you. So the third phase is the discard phase. During the discard phase, the narcissist abandons his or her victim in the most horrific, demeaning way possible to convince the victim that he or she is worthless. This could range from leaving the victim for another lover, humiliating the victim in public, blatantly ignoring the partner for a long period of time without any closure on the breakup, being physically aggressive, and a whole range of other demeaning behaviors to communicate to the victim that he or she is no longer important. Unlike normal partners, they ensure that you never have closure, and if you decide to leave them, they might decide to stalk you to show that they still have control. The narcissist may still reach out to you after the discard or attempt to provoke you in other ways to hover you back into the trauma of the relationship, keeping tabs on you even after the discard. It's all about control for the narcissist, especially the horrific discard. So if they see you thriving and moving on with your life, they'll attempt to reel you back in just to subject you to an even more humiliating discard than before. They want to demonstrate you are worthless and that you are their property. It makes no sense to us empathetic human beings who would often wish the best for our partners after a breakup, but then again, rational behavior has never been their forte. Speaking of Valentine's Day, this is kind of, I guess, why I wanted to do this video. So, Valentine's Day 2013 or 14, I had been dating someone, and another tactic that the narcissists use, especially in the idealization phase, the very first phase, is they will monitor all your calls and monitor who you spend time with, and you to come into this world of romantic bliss with them where it's just you two, and you think it's because they just genuinely want to be with you and enjoy spending time with you, but it's so that you to distance any form of support you have. So if there's anyone, it could be a possible threat to them having control of you, they will do whatever they can to get that person out of your life. So one narcissist I was dating, he turned me against my mother, and he was like, let's get our own place together and move in and we'll start fresh. And so he had been looking at apartments, and we had found one, agreed on one. I put down the deposit and we had a move-in date. He was supposed to give me the half of the deposit and security like a couple days before we moved, because he needed to wait until he got paid. So our move-in date was actually Valentine's Day. I had to work the night before, so I was at work, get off work, like all pumped, ready, to move into my new place, and never showed up. Wouldn't answer any of my calls, wouldn't answer any of my texts. I didn't get movers because he said him and his friends would move all of the furniture in. So I was stuck with all my stuff in a condo and no movers, all by myself. I was crushed. It was humiliating. I just didn't understand. I thought it had to be me. Finally, like 3 weeks later, contacts me and was like, oh, everything was just moving too fast, blah, 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 blah. Even though on multiple occasions I had tried to have a talk with him saying, if you're not ready for this, please let me know. And he was like, no, he was all down for it. And then, so that, I didn't realize then, but like that was the discard phase. And I wish I could say that that was the end of our relationship, but it wasn't. And it was like I was addicted to him. I didn't trust my instincts or my perceptions about him or my own emotions, because he had made me question them and invalidate them so many times. And one of the tactics they use to invalidate your emotions and perceptions is gaslighting. And gaslighting is a technique abusers use to convince you that your perception of the abuse is inaccurate. During the devaluation and discard phases, the narcissist will often invalidate and criticize your emotions and displace any blame of his or her abuse as your fault. They will suddenly develop abuse amnesia, where they'll forget horrific incidents of abuse or deny saying or doing something that they actually did. This allows them to escape accountability, but it's also a type of crazy making that enables the abuser to rewrite reality for you and control your world. In an abusive relationship with a narcissist, you are no longer the owner of your perception. You are a slave to the narcissist's projections and reshaping of your own perception. Frequent use of phrases such as, you provoked me, you're too sensitive, I never said that, or you're taking things too seriously after the narcissistic's abusive outbursts are common and used to gaslight you into thinking that the abuse is indeed your fault or that it never even took place. And like I mentioned before, when he, called me stupid and then said he didn't remember or he never said that. And I started to question, did he say that? But I knew in my heart he did. Narcissists are masters of making you doubt yourself and the abuse. This is why victims so often suffer even after the ending of a relationship with a narcissist, because the emotional invalidation they received from the narcissist made them feel powerless in their agency and intuition. This self-doubt enables them to stay within the abusive relationship, even when it's clear that the relationship is a toxic one, because they are led to mistrust their own instincts and interpretation of events. More often than not, narcissists target sensitive souls like empaths, so they are able to lock us into the fear that we're too sensitive quite easily. The truth is, anyone would be sensitive to verbal abuse and psychological manipulation. And when I didn't know myself and know that I was an empath, and it was very easy to believe that I was over emotional or too sensitive. There comes a point when you've endured so much pain and abuse from someone that you just can't take anymore. And I wish I could say that my pain tolerance was less than it is, because I can handle a lot of pain, emotional and physical, and therefore it took me a lot longer than I wish it would have before I finally said I am not going to tolerate this anymore. And I'm not going to get into the whole other thing about it, but it does talk about how the victim has to come to that decision on their own, and it's only after, you know, they have reached their pain and abuse threshold. And once that happens, then they are able to begin on the journey of healing. A relationship with a narcissist is also a cataclysmic rude awakening into the fact that people are rarely who they portray themselves to be. It's knowledge, it's experience, it's insight and wisdom, perhaps the kind you wish you didn't have. Sometimes it's even social capital, enabling you to navigate even more intelligently and with more discernment than ever before. You're wide-eyed and vigilant. You see what other people don't see. You learn about your boundaries and your values. You recognize the value of authentic people, those rare breeds who wear their hearts on their sleeves and bleed integrity instead of exploit that quality in others. It doesn't have to be a waste of time to have been through this experience, even while validating how painful it is and the fact that no one should ever have to go through it. When you've been through something horrific like this, at the very least you are owed the fruits of its wisdom and the drive it provides you to kick some serious ass. Because there's nothing more powerful than a survivor tapping into his or her power. There is nothing more powerful than a survivor being motivated to reach their maximum level of success, self-development, and self-love by the very bullies who attempted to disempower them. Being a survivor can be used as an awakening to the emergence of your true self, your past traumas, your deep-rooted wounds, and a shaking up of your core beliefs. Surviving alone is a measure of your resilience and true strength, no matter how weak you may feel at the moment. When you're in a war zone, you develop a much different perspective than someone who lives their life fed with a silver spoon. You are forced to develop a belief in yourself, a strong faith that can surpass anything and everything when you've been abused, just in order to survive. You're forced to depend and rely only on yourself because you're so alienated otherwise. You learn how worthy your time is, and you learn how to stop wasting it on unworthy people. You learn the importance of self-care, of self-compassion, of discernment and intuition. You learn to listen to the inner voice in your own soul rather than the dark voices speaking to your ego. I wish I would have never been through those experiences, but like it said, if it wasn't for those experiences, because after my last relationship with a narcissist, I was completely broken. But it forced me to get to know myself and to love myself, because I realized that I couldn't be dependent on someone else's love, because then they end up controlling you. I had to take my power back, and I don't think I would be where I am right now if it wasn't for these experiences. It wasn't until I was completely broken and started to rebuild myself up that I learned what was important to me and what I wanted, and ultimately led me to pursuing my dreams and starting a YouTube channel. And it's so important for that after the abuse, to find yourself and find what makes you happy, because that is essential to your healing. So those are the 3 phases. I hope that this information empowers you somehow, and maybe, will help you recognize someone with narcissistic traits before you're, too deep in. I hope you guys enjoyed this video or it helped you in some way, and I will see you in my next video.